I never knew that we weren't that great in high school. I mean, we always had so much fun together. I thought high school was a blast. And until you told me that our lives weren't good enough, I thought everything since high school was a blast. I think we should go back out there as ourselves and just have fun like we always do. The hell with everyone else.
I don't think I can.
Well, do you think you can stop being such a baby? God, I feel like I've been chasing you all over this reunion. We have come all this way. Now we are going to enjoy ourselves whether you like it or not.
Hey everyone, so I'm going to go ahead and start my bus confessional today, or right now. So I don't really have a set time frame because I wanted to spend a good amount of time of being able to talk about being fafafinge. So the word fafafinge is particularly only used in the Samoan culture. And so Samoa is about 4,000 miles south from Hawaii in the Pacific Ocean. And so it's a really small dot near New Zealand and near Australia in the South Pacific Ocean. It's cold. So people in Samoa, they have three genders. They have a male gender, they have a female gender, and then they have a cultural gender that they accept there. And I'll get to that a little later in terms of a biological male, usually a gay male, and sometimes not a gay male or a straight man who displays feminine characteristics or does the roles that are typically ascribed to a female in society. So, home duties, taking care of the kids, teaching, and cooking, etc., and stuff like that. So, growing up, I'm about 36. I grew up in Santa Ana, California. I always knew that I was fafafinge, and I knew that word in my home. And I didn't discover the word gay until I got into elementary, and because the other kids at school knew what gay was. And so when fafafinge and gay were used at school, when gay was used at school, it had a bad connotation. So from elementary to, all right, I really wanted my hair to look kind of cuter, but it got really damp down, and so I'm just keeping the hat on. Anywho, so from elementary, just like most LGBT people, we kind of know at a young age, and some of us, we hide it, and then some of us, depending on our families, we can be supported and come out and do the best things that we can do, as an honest, authentic person. But back in the 90s, we couldn't do that. So growing up, I didn't really have an outlet to express being LGBTQ or being gay or being trans or being fafafinge. I didn't have an outlet for that. I was just a boy, and all I knew that is I was a boy, and if I was gay and a boy, that I would not be accepted. So in school, it was difficult from elementary to junior high and even high school, and even as an adult. But at home, my home life was totally different. So when I was a kid, we used to play this game called hide and seek, and so every weekend my parents threw a big party. There was not one weekend we never had a party. We always had some kind of barbecue. My mother was cooking, and since my dad's cousins lived about a block or two, we all lived a block or two from each other, they would come over and bring their kids, and we would just celebrate, and the kids would stay in the house, and the parents would drink in the back. And so growing up, I didn't really have such a difficult time being fafafinge. There are times when I would get made fun of for displaying feminine characteristics, but it wasn't as difficult as it was for a lot of other gay people in a non-inclusive culture, different from Samoan people. So we played hide and seek, and I was actually the first person to get out. And so I remember going inside the kitchen and sitting down, and I didn't know what to do. And so my mom kind of put me to work because I was sitting there and, it's like you're supposed to be with the kids, the adults are supposed to be here, but then here I am sitting there saying, well, I just got out of the game. They kicked me out. And so, they're all older than me because I'm the youngest of 7 and 8 for my parents and my father. So I sat there, and so different from the American culture, where in American culture, you kind of have to fend for yourself and find your own autonomy, and you got to be able to express yourself, and the consequences or the benefits of being gay, if you're lucky enough in your family, you go about living in that journey. But in the Samoan culture on the island, a person like myself at a very young age who finds himself in the kitchen helping his mom, for me it came naturally. So what I did in America here, as a fa'afafine, as a gay person or as a trans person, as helping my mother out, that's what everybody in the culture back home would have done. That's what everybody in Samoa would have done, at least the fa'afafingas in Samoa. So I kind of got, little by little, people always ask, what are the benefits of being an LGBTQ? And so for me at a young age, I knew athleticism wasn't my forte, even though I come from a very athletic family. But it kind of just fell in my lap when something didn't work out for me, something opened up better for me, and I was able to just slowly learn by kind of catching on a little by here and being trained by someone else, so that trainer was my mom. So I probably was about between 1st and 2nd grade, and then around 4th and 5th grade, I was able to handle my own in the kitchen. Where my brothers were already in high school, and they were at Mater Dei High School, and they had to go to a CIF, whatever that means, Central Intelligent Football, I don't know. And so they ended up having to go to some football game in Hawaii, where it left my dad and my siblings, and my mom was there with my 2 brothers, and the cook was gone. So my mom was like, you can cook the meal. So I ended up cooking the meal, and I remember one of my first mistakes was gravy, because you can't have a Thanksgiving meal without gravy. You can't have a Thanksgiving meal without gravy. You got meat, and there's got to be something to drizzle it on. And so I remember calling my mom in Hawaii, because I was like, call her. And so we had, back then you call 1-800, or my mom would call and I would be like, help me. And so she called me and she said, just add a little flour. And so I remember that I just threw a bunch of flour in and I just started whisking it. And then anyways, long story short, people got diarrhea. So fast forward to my teen years, when my dad passed away, I had a skill set of being able to hold my own in the kitchen. And so when my dad passed away, for some reason, I don't know, I didn't think then, but looking back now, I had this go-getter attitude, where if I wanted something, I was going to be able to go get it. And so there's on McFadden and Harbor Boulevard, there used to be a Togo's. It's where the Walmart is. I think it's still there. But the Togo's there is the first place that said that they would hire me to be a sandwich maker there. And so I ended up going, and I fill out an application and I turn it in, and then the guy goes, here, come meet me at this time, you have an interview. And I told my sister, I go, hey, can you take me to Togo's? I have an interview. She's like, do you know what you're going to do? And I go, no, I'm just going to go talk to the guy. She's like, they're going to ask you questions. And she goes, fine. And she was kind of mad at me. And so she was like, here, blah, blah, blah. Tell them this thing, you're a team player, you're a hard worker, and you'll be here on time. So I go there, I tell him everything my sister tells me to say, and he's so happy. He's like, man, you're like, girlfriend or whatnot. He didn't really say that, but he was like, I really want to hire you. You're a great worker. And so then he asked me, how old am I? And I was like, I'm only 15. They only hired people who were 16. So I ended up getting my first rejection. And then I was in school, and one of the girls who I had been a teacher's aide with was like, Junior, come. And so I ended up going to the career center, and she gave me a work permit. That was like totally where all my scamming comes from. So she gave me a permit. She goes, fill it out. And then she ended up whiting out my birth date and then changing it so that I could be 16. So I ended up not applying at Togus, but I ended up applying at Target, and then I ended up applying at other places when I was old enough. And so as I got older, I started to realize that I had a knack for being able to, take something, one closed door, and find something new. So rejection wasn't difficult for me at a young age. But anyways, by being able to have my own job and being able to, I'll kind of expand on it in the future in terms of like what my parents kind of helped me with what the limited knowledge that they knew in terms of financially and being able to have a job, and how I'm kind of homeless now. But now that I'm older, I look back and I think about how being groomed as a fa'afafine and in the kitchen, and being able to take something and then being able to not give up and keep moving forward and going forward, and being able to do that, then I found that wherever there was an opportunity, and if I had at least just a little bit of talent, whether it was taking care of youth, or was it at church, or if it was cleaning something, or that I knew that I could be able to contribute something to society. And so as a fa'afafine, a lot of times in the islands they have different roles, and those roles are very revered. They're, how being groomed as a fa'afafine and in the kitchen, and being able to take something and then being able to not give up and keep moving forward and going forward, and being able to do that, then I found that wherever there was an opportunity, and if I had at least just a little bit of talent, whether it was taking care of youth, or was it at church, or if it was cleaning something, or that I knew that I could be able to contribute something to society. And so as a fa'afafine, a lot of times in the islands they have different roles, and those roles are very revered. So I took a class called anthropology, and it's called Samoans are called tribes. It's a tribal culture, and so we still have chiefs, and our leaders are, now we have like our own little government and stuff like that. But back in the days, it was considered tribes. So when we come to America, we're considered in a working industrial environment. And so, like if you look all around me, these are all industrial buildings where they have, kind of like a back area, and they have a front store, and they work in factory, and they do things. And when we come here, we have our tribal ways. So I don't know where I was going, but anyways, I think as for me, the challenges that I faced were more so just really coming out of the closet, and coming out of the closet. I didn't come out of the closet until I was like 26. And I came out to my mom, and it wasn't really like the best coming out situation, because I had already lost everything that I had worked for. So everything in terms of my creativity, my not giving up attitude, my willingness to serve and provide and protect for the community and family, I had already lost it. And so when I finally came out of the closet as a fa'afafine to myself, or as a gay person, as a transgender person, I had already come to a place where I had already lost everything. So it was already too late for me to express the truth, because I didn't feel, I think at the time in society, because then it was against the law, and now it's not against the law. It's been such a long time for anybody in Orange County to be, walking around holding another man's hand, or a woman to be. They still get dirty looks when they're seen in public. But nowadays, it's a little different. We're kind of easing families and communities and youth to understand that if this is how you see yourself and how you feel about yourself, then it's not such a bad thing, and there's ways to go about it. And so the reason why I wanted to speak about being Fa'afafine was because a lot of people in my culture, it's so rare for us to be homeless, especially in the Samoan culture. So on the island, back in the days, they didn't have shelters, and they didn't have convalescent homes, because the rule is, if you were having problems inside your own home, you would go to your neighbor's house, who you would consider like a cousin, whether you're related or not. And so when I finally hit homelessness, I knew that I hit like an all-time new low that was totally different from any other Fa'afafine, and in addition to doing drugs and having been through what I had been through growing up, and how being a Fa'afafine helped me, and then also accepting being a Fa'afafine didn't help me. And so now that I've been able to go through a program and see myself in a different view, in the sense that I look at myself now in the way God sees me, and the way I see myself. And I think that's a personal story, and a personal my arms are tired. That's a personal truth of mine, as someone who goes about in society, and the LGBT community educates society about how to address people who are not heterosexual male or heterosexual female, but how to address them. I just say, call me a man. But if I'm getting to know you as a person, then I will tell you about myself a little bit more. And a little bit more about myself is that I explain my culture. And so if I don't explain my culture, then you don't get to know me, because that's what distinguishes people from being a regular, participating, responsible citizen in society. It's just what makes you stand out from everybody else. And so culture is something that's really important to everybody. We eat it. Our culture is our food. Our culture is our language. Culture is our traditions. It's how we interact with our families, and it's a huge motivating factor in how we go from one place to the next place. And so the reason why I wanted to speak about being Fa'afafine is, I didn't have any key points because I wanted to use this as a frame of reference in the future, is that I could probably leave some advices for Fa'afafines, because having been homeless, I think there's some things that the trans community and the gay community could be more aware of. And I'm not saying I'm like the best, but in terms of confidence and being able to keep your head up, because a lot of times it's a very dog-eat-dog world. People are going to target and pin us in a box and say, this is how it is. And so, kind of make someone feel uncomfortable. And so I'll get to that in a second. So now where I'm at, I think if as a Fa'afafine, I'm like all over the place. As a Fa'afafine, most people don't understand that, but I totally forgot where I was going with this. Anyways, so as a Fa'afafine growing up in Orange County, it was very difficult. And then now that I've come to the place, now that I've come to a place as an adult where I've accepted who I am as a person and as a culture, I know where I want to go in direction. It sucks that I'm like in my 30s. I wish it would have been a lot better, a lot different in terms of where I grew up. Because if I look back and I look at a younger self, it probably would have been a lot harder, to be honest. If I had came out in the closet as gay, and I came out of the closet and even transitioned to be a woman, I would have had it a lot harder. But I didn't do that. And I was going to transition, but I didn't want to do that either. So I never really finished anything I started. But anywho, if you ever come across somebody in a culture who comes from a tribal community in an industrial society or world, we operate a little differently. And so in the Samoan culture, it's said that Fa'afafine means in the manner of a woman, and so I think sometimes people expect me to physically look like a woman and to physically be a woman in terms of changing everything about myself, but I'm pretty happy with being a man. I'm pretty happy with that, and so I think some words of advice, because I kind of was all over the place. If you're transgender, or if you're LGBTQ, or if you're fluid and you're going from a gay man or a gay girl, a woman, a girl, and then you're going from androgyny, and then you're going to go through the transition process, because it's a spectrum, just like heterosexual sexuality, where it's like, you know, you might be a little this and that, and a little freaky deaky or whatever, but then that's the same, but we have identities and we have categories of what we look like, and etc. But if you ever find yourself in a place of homelessness, I think one of the biggest thing is to don't fight the world. I think for me, I always wanted to fight the world, because not because I was afraid of who I was inside, it was because I was scared of the world. And I think a lot of times because we never received love from our families, or we didn't know how to love ourselves, we didn't really know how to love the world around us. So by the time we started like fighting the world and saying, what the fuck, like blah 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 blah, it's because we never received it in the first place. So don't fight the world. Learn to love, and learn to love in all different types of ways. And so for me, in our Samoan culture, Fa'afafine, we are allowed to go to church, and in the culture there too, the transgender Fa'afafines and even the gay Fa'afafines are participate in the Christian church there. And so if I didn't have God, if I didn't have Jesus in my personal life, I probably would have not known how much I was loved as a human being. And so a lot of times, you know, we learn from a very young age what Jesus did for us on the cross, and you know, all the things that he did to make sure we feel loved, and then how we have to live a life to make sure that people know the love that he has for us, so that you know, we can live our best life. And that's not easy. That is difficult even for straight people. But any word of advice for people in the LGBT community: it's okay to love, and don't be afraid to love the people around you. And so I'll kind of like leave it off of that because I'm starving. Happy Pride Month. I'm working on my my public speaking skills. I think it's really good to be vulnerable and honest, so that way I can like just get in the habit of like speaking, because I haven't had like conversations in forever. But also being able to just not keep it all inside and express it in some way. And so that's why I choose to not be shameful about where I'm at in society, that I'm homeless, and that I sit on a bus and I talk about who I am as a person, because even as a homeless person, or even as a rich person in society, my value isn't determined by what I have or what I do for work. My value is determined by the love that God has for me. And so I'll end right there. I just like doing the most. Anyways, so I love you guys. I hope that you guys are having a good day and are being kind to